All right, that's better. So what we'd like to do is introduce you to
Yeah, same to you, Alex.
to the substance of our book, Deep Fitness. Sort of give you a yay, give you an overview, and then we'd love to field questions at the end of it. And I'd like to start just by giving a sort of origin story. Andrei started New Element training, and a mutual friend of ours started training with him and said, "You know, Andrei, this workout, it's really mindful." And so Andrei started looking into mindfulness in every way he could. And the friend said, "Well, if you're really into mindfulness, you should check out Philip Shepherd, who lives in your town." So I got this email saying, "You know, I have a gym with a certain workout. I'd love to introduce you to it." And you know, I've never in my life been drawn to gyms. I've worked out, but you know, I go into a gym and I don't know what to do, and I do something, and you know, it's never been very satisfying. Anyway, I went in for this workout, and it was unlike anything I've had in my life. My whole body felt just vividly alive at the end of it, and I loved it, and I kept coming back for more. And I come from a practice that helps people move into their bodies. I mean, we just live in our heads, and it's really detrimental to our health, our clarity of being. And Andre has this phenomenal workout that he developed, and our two practices sort of dovetailed together into what we call mindful strength training to failure, MSTF. And you know, just in a nutshell, our our approach to fitness lags about 50 years behind the research. And we carry these misconceptions with us. And there are a lot of them that the book counters with really rigorous peer-reviewed science. So you know we're under the impression, misconception one, that the primary purpose of exercise is to strengthen the heart and the lungs. Misconception two, the most important exercise is aerobic exercise. Misconception three, staying fit requires a very serious time commitment. And misconception four, intense exercise means fast exercise in some way. So I'd like to walk through those four misconceptions, and then Andre will take you through the principles that guide an MSTF workout, and then we'll open it for questions. So, misconception one: the purpose of exercise is to strengthen the heart and the lungs. To me, the most telling refutation of that was a study they did. They got volunteers to get on an exercise bike and exercise several times a week for a month. And at the outset of the study, they tested their VO2 max, basically their aerobic fitness. But what they did was they tested one leg at a time. So they had the riders go with just the dominant leg and they tested how fit they were, and then with the non-dominant leg and they tested how fit they were. And then for the duration of the study, the cyclists only used the same leg, one leg. So they're cycling with one leg. And at the end of the study, they tested again for aerobic fitness. And when the cyclists were using that one leg, their aerobic fitness had gone up significantly, like 23% or something. Then they tested their aerobic fitness on the leg that they hadn't been using, and it had barely moved at all. There was almost no change. So whatever adaptations are happening with aerobic exercise, they're not happening in the heart and the lungs primarily. They're happening in the muscle. When you use that unexercised leg, the heart and the lungs theoretically should have improved and made your aerobic fitness better, but it didn't affect it. So so the cardio adaptations that the body adapts to as a result of exercise are happening in the muscles. Um, the second of these assumptions, the most important exercise, is aerobic exercise. Well, first of all, the adaptations are happening in the muscle. And secondly, our understanding of muscle has radically altered in the light of research. We used to think muscle has one primary function, which is to move us around. It turns out muscle has two primary functions. The secondary, or the second of these primary functions, is that muscle is like a hormone factory. When muscle works, it creates messenger molecules that go through the whole of the body and promote health in every tissue and every organ. It promotes mental acuity. It promotes bone mineral density. It wards off diabetes. It promotes immunity. So for years, researchers knew that exercise had this global positive effect on the body, but they didn't know why. They're trying to track down what is it in exercise that has such a positive effect. And then they discovered myokines, these messenger molecules. And the stronger a muscle is, and the more intensely it works, the more myokines are produced, and they wash through the body and promote health all through it. Muscle then is really the foundation of your metabolic health. And if that's true, which research supports, then strength training is the most direct means we have of promoting that metabolic health. It's also the most direct countermeasure to something called sarcopenia. So sarcopenia is a relatively new word in the English language. What it refers to is the wasting of muscle with age. And that's something that happens all around us. We see happening all around us. There's nothing inevitable about it. It's sort of our lifestyle that makes it inevitable. But sarcopenia is associated with all the major chronic diseases of our modern civilization: diabetes, heart disease, osteoporosis. And sarcopenia, this wasting of muscle, again, strength training is the most direct countermeasure to that. So um, you can think that your muscles are doing all right. You can have the impression that you haven't lost that much strength, and you walk for 20 minutes every day. But when you look at muscle, when you really understand muscle, you see that there are every motor unit of the muscle has three different kinds of fibers. There's the endurance fiber that can go a long, long time and it's quickly refreshed. Then there's the intermediate fiber that is a little stronger and a little bigger, but it exhausts more quickly. And then there are what we call the powerhouse fibers. Those are the largest, strongest muscles in the body, but they're only recruited when the other two sets of muscles have been fatigued. So you can walk all day long and never enlist those large powerhouse muscles. And then what happens is they just begin to waste. And you can, lose a quarter of a pound of muscle every year very easily. And then in 4 years, that's a pound. And, in over time, your muscle is wasting. So aerobic exercise, not to take anything away from it, it's wonderful, but it, unless you're going very, very hard, it doesn't engage those large powerhouse muscles, and sarcopenia continues, and your foundation of health, in effect, is corroding. It's it's a difficult thing to adjust our mindset around exercise, to understand that, in hunter-gatherer cultures, they remain strong and they don't suffer any of the or there's very limited incidence of heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis. Your muscular strength is the basis of your health. So the fourth of these assumptions, that you need intense exercise to engage those powerhouse muscles to keep them healthy. But we have this image that to go intensely means to go fast, and to go fast means you're susceptible to injury. I mean, at a certain age, well, almost at any age, sprinting can result in injury. I say at almost any age because I remember that famous runoff between the two Olympic champions, one from the States who won the 200-yard dash, and one from Canada who won the 100-yard dash. And well, who's the fastest? Well, they had a runoff, and the guy from the States pulled a muscle. So here's someone who spent his whole adult life getting ready for a sprint, and he still injures himself. In mindful strength training to failure, what we're doing is we're moving very, very slowly, and there is no sacrifice at all to the intensity. If anything, that slow movement brings you into a mindful, deep encounter with the self where you're fully present to what is happening. I can give you, oh yeah, thanks, Mark. Donovan Bailey and Michael Johnson, the Carl Lewis and Ben John. Well, we have different opinions as to who was running in that sprint. Somebody will Google it and get it to us. What I'd invite you to do is, Mark is right. Okay, thank you. What I'd invite you to do, if you're sitting in a chair, I'd invite you to just stand up as you normally would. Just give it a try, stand up, and notice how that feels, and notice how you feel. And then sit back down again, sit back in the chair. And now I'd invite you to stand up without generating any momentum. What we normally do when we stand up, we sort of throw ourselves up. Well, try it very slowly. Stand very slowly. You're not generating any momentum at all. And when you arrive at that position where you're standing up, notice any difference in how you feel. When I rise from the chair without momentum, I feel more present when I'm standing up than when I throw myself up. And the same principle applies when you're doing a slow workout. you're not aiming at a destination, you're not generating momentum. You are engaging the muscles through the whole range of that movement. And they found that when you go fast, say you're lifting weights fast, the momentum takes over at a certain point, and the muscle is not being worked through the full range of the motion. So there are many advantages to that slow, mindful workout, not the least of which is that you can arrive at failure in 1.5 to 2 minutes. And what I mean by failure is, you get to the point where you're trying to lift the weight and you can't, and you're trying to hold the weight and you can't, and it just lowers itself despite your best efforts to hold it there. And when a muscle arrives at momentary failure like that, the whole body gets the message that the environment has presented challenges that the body's not capable of. Just notice there are people still in the waiting room for some reason. Thought I disabled the waiting room. My mistake. I really need a tech person. Welcome to everyone who's joined us. I'm sorry I was a little late letting you in. I've been talking away, so I'll do a quick recap of the misconceptions. There's still people. Hold on, I got to check my settings here. I think we've got it now. So, the book Deep Fitness overturns misconceptions that we've been living with since the book Aerobics was published in 1968. And I'm talking about four main misconceptions. One is that the purpose of exercise is to strengthen the heart and the lungs. The second is that the most important exercise is aerobic exercise, cardio. The third is that staying fit requires a major time commitment. And the fourth is that intense means fast. So I'd like to review, for those who've been with us, those four assumptions. Purpose of exercise is to strengthen the heart and the lungs. It turns out that the adaptations in the body when we do cardio are not primarily in the heart and the lungs. The adaptations are primarily in the muscles. And the second assumption, that the most important exercise is aerobic exercise, well, if the adaptations happen in the muscle, it invites us to reassess the role that muscle plays. And what research has determined is that muscle has two primary functions. We used to think muscle was only there to move us around. It turns out muscle is a hormone factory. In other words, muscle creates these messenger molecules that go through the whole of the body and affect every tissue and every organ in the body. And they promote health. They promote the strength of the immune system. They promote mental clarity. They promote bone mineral density, just everything. And for years they were searching for what the most critical determinant. When we exercise, they knew when we exercise it affects everything in the body, and they were looking for what is it in exercise that has this effect. And they discovered myokines. which are these messenger molecules that in effect go through the whole body and affect everything in it. And myokines are created when a muscle works. And the stronger a muscle is, and the more intensely the muscle works, the more myokines are created, and they go through the whole body and promote health. And strength training is the most direct way of strengthening the muscles and improving their ability to support the global health of the body. And I spoke briefly about sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is sort of recognized as the underlying epidemic in our culture. We have all these diseases we associate with modern living, um, and all of them are associated with sarcopenia. Sarcopenia just means a wasting of muscle with age. Well, once you understand muscle as the sort of foundation of your health, then you can see how detrimental it is when muscle begins to waste. So, strength training sort of directly fortifies the resource, the primary resource on which your health depends. Um, and to understand what it takes in a way to maintain the health of your muscles, it helps to understand that in every muscle there are three different kinds of fibers, and the fibers are recruited in an unwavering order. So the first muscles that are used are the endurance muscles that just can keep going all day long. But if the task at hand fatigues those, then the intermediate fibers come online, which are a little stronger but fatigue more quickly. When they fatigue, and only when they fatigue, the powerhouse muscles come online. The powerhouse muscles are your largest, most powerful muscles, but they're only engaged when the other sets of muscles have failed. And that's why, you can go walking religiously 10 miles a day and still be losing muscle with every passing year. Um, Staying fit doesn't require a major time commitment if you do it um, well, if you follow the mindful strength training to failure that deep fitness talks about. When you do an exercise slowly and you take a muscle group to failure, the body gets the message that the environment has presented challenges that you're not strong enough to meet, and it rallies its resources to make you stronger. So that quality of going to failure is intense, but with mindful strength training of failure, it's also very safe. The protocol, that slow protocol working out, was developed for elderly people with osteoporosis. They were trying to figure out how can we get these people to get stronger safely, and they tried this protocol, moving the weight slowly, and not only did the people get stronger without injury, they got stronger faster than would have been anticipated. And so then they thought, well, if that works with elderly people, let's try it with athletes. And the same effect happened with athletes. So the last so 1/2 hour once or twice a week is the optimum amount of time for this workout. And it's optimum because you need to let a muscle recover if you've taken it to failure. It takes, 72 hours for the muscle to remodel on average. So to take the muscle to failure several days in a row is to undercut that remodeling process that happens. So that's why the half hour once or twice a week is optimum. More than that can be detrimental. And um, I'm in my late 60s, and I'd internalized for myself that, well, I'm getting a little older. I probably shouldn't go as hard as I used to. And then Andre introduced me to the workout, and I've never in my life gone more intensely than I go in the workout, and I've never injured myself. So it's a godsend in that regard. And that slow pace it allows me to be fully present to what is happening. It becomes a completely mindful practice. For myself, every workout is actually a spiritual practice. It is this deep encounter with my wholeness and the experience of being fully present to what is happening. So that's sort of an overview of the misconceptions that deep fitness is is hoping to help people turn around. And Andre um, will take you through the principles that guide a workout.
Thank you, Philip. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule and being with us today, and expressing your interest in our book, Deep Fitness. Before I go dive into the principles, the technical part of it. So I'll give you a little bit background where I'm coming from, and then we can discuss the more technical side of it. When I came to Canada, I went to university, and I ended up building a career in field of geophysics, where eventually I became a partner in my company, and was very well set in terms of my career, income, and everything else. At the same time, I liked lifting weights, so just like everybody else, I would go to the gym, do big compound movements, the squats, the bench presses, and all that stuff. And I was getting strong, but at the same time, I started to develop aches and pains in my joints. But my ego was bigger than the discomfort, and I was keep doing it. And then one day I thought, okay, what's actually the science of building muscle? And there's so much noise in the industry. I didn't want to ask just some random people in the gym or go into some random magazines which kind of just recycle the same information over and over. Upon diving into the research, I came across foundationally this type of training. And what introduced me first to this training is this book is called Body by Science, co-authored by Dr. Doug McGough, as well as John Little. And Doug McGough also wrote foreword for this book, which was very generous of him. And first, in the subtitle of that book was something along the lines, research-based training only in 12 minutes a week, not even 30 minutes. And it sounds too good to be true. But upon, double checking, doing my due diligence on the statements they were making in the book, actually pulling the data, pulling the research papers and reviewing the research, yes, suggested if you train this way, in fact, you can get stronger and get excellent results by doing this type of training once or twice a week. And so I put this training to practice with a couple of my colleagues. I convinced them to read Body by Science. And after a year, one of my friends, who was kind of around 40 years of age at that time, I don't think he's ever been to the gym, kind of very average guy. But after a year of doing this training only once a week, his body transformed. He had shoulders, triceps, chest, six-pack. Basically, he kind of was pretty much developed the body of an athlete while being out of shape just a year ago. And I know exactly what he did because we trained each other once a week. It was fairly intensive workout, but that at the same time, personally, I wanted to do something on my own. I needed more challenge in life than what I already had. And I decided to leave that business, that partnership. And when I had a question, okay, what I want to do? And I didn't want to look for another job. So I knew that I'm going to do something on my own. And I found that for the past year, I would spend all my free time basically reading research on this topic. And I found, this seems to be where my passion is. When I was younger, I was an athlete, I was a wrestler and everything else. So I was not new to fitness. And after doing, more research about different modalities, business models, I came across this model, which is called Kaiser training. If you're in German-speaking Europe, I suggest checking them out. Philip's been to several of those places himself. And I eventually decided to open New Element Training, which we apply the principle of this training, where we exclusively utilize, in my opinion, the best resistance and rehabilitation equipment in the world, so-called MEDEX, which stands for medical exercise. And as I'm talking, I'm actually right now at work. Here. So here's our place, New Element Training. And we have all these beautiful MEDEX machines set up right here. So let me just go back to my place. And after doing this for 2-3 years, sticking to this training principle, seeing people once or twice a week, people will come and, like several times a week will tell us how this training transformed their lives. And I wanted to take this amazing exercise solution for our overall health and well-being and, outside of the wall of New Element Training. So I thought I want to write a book about it. And I kind of started writing something of my own. I kind of put something together, but then I sat and I didn't do much because I really needed somebody to do it well, to do it properly. And then, at some point I came across mindfulness, came across Philip, took a bunch of his workshops. If you guys haven't done his work, tried his work, I couldn't recommend more highly. If you really want to try and understand and experientially feel what being present means, highly, highly recommended. And while doing, work with Philip, participating in his workshops, I had this crazy idea. Why don't I ask Philip if he wants to do this book with me? And somehow he said yes. And, the rest of the history. It took us, 2-3 years, right? From the first idea to the final version. So that's kind of the story, how book came about. I should also mention that what we talk in our book, it's really been proven, not just by research. We see people, that's what we do, every day, dozens of people. We have couple locations. So when we mention some exercises based on the machines, if you have access to the gym, or even body weights, we field tested those exercises, those programs. They do work. For example, with the body weight exercises, we knew that we decided to write the book before COVID happened. And I personally only had experience using our equipment in combination with our training principles. And when COVID happened, we had no choice but to adapt like everybody else and started to train people virtually, those who, those people who were willing to participate in virtual training. And so what we did, essentially, we took our key guiding training principles, which I will discuss shortly, and we applied using just simply body weight, resistance band, and, in some cases, pull-up bars. And it worked. And how do we know it worked? One, people were giving me feedback that this home-based workouts felt as hard, sometimes even harder than the machine-based workout in the gym. Even now I'm training people, with the book, more and more people doing virtual training, they're telling me how they feel sore for 3-5 days after the workout, just simply using their body and resistance bands. And a test for that it actually works was when we went in the initial lockdown, when COVID just happened. I believe it was about 7 or so months long when, when everything was shut down. And when people returned, when they opened the gyms again, and I thought, look, what happened to those people who did virtual training with us? Did they lose strength? Did they gain strength? So I gave them exactly the same weights, same settings on the machines, even though they haven't been to the gym for, more than half a year. And as if they never left, like the strength was there. And yet, when I gave the same settings to people who didn't do virtual training with us, they couldn't do it. I had to drop the resistance weights by 20, 30%, quite significantly. They clearly lost quite a bit of strength and get out of shape. So it was excellent validation that those bodyweight exercises, if you apply these training principles properly, they do work. And the timing was actually good, because otherwise we would just, include some bodyweight exercises with the hope it would work. But now we know they do work, because we've been doing it now for close to 2 years. And so let's talk about the training principles. It doesn't matter what tool you use, whether you use the best machine like we have Medex, or more simpler, machines that you find in your local gym, or whether you use a free weight, whether you use a body weight or resistance band. Those are simply tools. If you understand these principles, you can apply them using a variety of tools. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as much which tool you use, as long as you're doing it properly and you're not hurting yourself, right? So our body, machine, free weight, resistance bands, all they are, they're simply tools. So let's talk about some of the key, we call them guiding training principles. There are more than, there's kind of main 4 ones, but there's really more than 4. But after working with people of all sorts of background, we have people more on the athletic side and younger. We have people in their 90s. We have ladies in their 80s with osteoporosis. We have people with various, mental abilities, physiological, neurological strength, all sorts of really, really large variety of people we work with. And then after working with people year after year after year, see what works, what doesn't, why it doesn't work, putting all the different disciplines together from neuroscience, from other areas, mindfulness, we've synthesized this training around this 3 + 1, 4 training principles. If you really understand these training principles, you clearly understand them and you respect them and you follow them, we guarantee you're going to get results. And the results could mean many things, right? But minimally, you're going to get stronger, you're going to feel better, you're going to kind of start finding the muscles you kind of lost the connection to, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about those key guiding principles. The exercise, if you haven't read the book, you will see from the first, couple chapters in the book that muscle, as Philip mentioned, is bedrock of our metabolic health. So there's really no other way to go around. You have to do strength training to take care of the muscle. Now, the training has to be sustainable as a lifelong practice. If it's not sustainable, if you cannot do it as a lifelong practice, what's the point? Because muscle is one of those tissues, if you don't use it, you lose it. So ideally, you want to find a modality. It doesn't really matter if you follow our modality or another modality. If it works for you, you're not hurting yourself, by all means, keep doing it. Enjoy it, as long as you can maintain it as a lifelong practice safely. One of the issues with this training in terms of lifelong sustainability is when you train to muscle failure and you start activating those fast twitch fibers, it usually comes with quite a bit of intensive burning sensation in that muscle, basically this discomfort. And if you doing this training and you somewhere else in your head and you kind of try to will yourself through this training, there's quite a bit of suffering in it. And what are the chances that you would maintain this training, particularly if you're doing it alone, you don't have somebody experienced taking you through this workout in the long term? Well, not very high, because you're going to hate it. Now, this is where mostly Philip work comes in, is you can actually do this exercise and instead of suffering through it, find sense of enjoyment. And there's a whole chapter about this, and Philip talks about in chapter 6. It's, highly recommend go and review this chapter. But what you can do simply is, if you, and again, all coming from Philip, he's teaching me, is if you prioritize the experience, prioritize the feeling, meaning, let's say you're doing a leg press exercise or just doing a wall sit exercise, try to feel those muscles you work in, as openly as you can. Try not to supervise it. Basically, you try to receive every sensation, every second, every moment of your exercise for what it is, without any management in it. And also, when somebody would look at you from the outside, even in your face, don't manage those. Just kind of try whole of your body, let it surrender to those sensations, discover those feelings, just feel it, basically feel it. Focus on the experience, focus on the feelings of those sensations. Doesn't matter how intense they are. And what you might find, which I did on few occasions, particularly when Philip puts me through this workout, and also when I coach some other clients as well, who open to this mindful approach, is that you might find your legs are going to be shaking, but part in you will feel so good, won't want to finish it. So what happens, you kind of taking your awareness out of your head and you lower it in your body, you become embodied. And when you do that, when you really focus on those sensations, experiences, it allows you to take a break from that vigilance, that supervisor in your head, that ego-based concept of you're like me against the world. And it feels very good to take break from yourself, essentially. So yeah, your legs are shaking, but there is a little smile in your head because it feels good. So that's one of the principles. Try to learn, that's the mindfulness part. Again, Philip does it way more advanced than this. So I welcome you to study chapter 6 and contact him if you have more questions. But simply everybody just today can do this practice and just try to prioritize the experience, the feelings, receive everything as openly as you can. And you will slowly find more joy in this training. So you will not really there will be a little bit of suffering, take a little bit of practice to develop those sensitivities, but you will start finding more joy. And once you start finding more joy in this training, you're more likely to look forward to another session. And some sessions when I do really mindfully, I finish and my body is shaking, I'm done. But part of me wants to do it again, even though I'm done. And it's very different when you don't do it this way. When you do it from the head, you probably wouldn't want to do another workout like this for at least a few days. So this is one of the principles. Make it more mindful than less mindful. Prioritize the experience. Now, the other three principles are more physiological, more about the actual technique. One of them we called muscle first, movement second. And the reason behind it, I would have clients in the past put them on a rowing exercise. And I've noticed that, if I take clients usually in their 20s, 30th, they get the cues, they can really do the exercise from the right muscles in the back, your latissimus, trapezius, rhomboids, and so on. And then sometimes I take a bit older client, and some of them, I tell them, feel it in the lats, and they tell me, I don't know where the lats are, I cannot feel them. And I'm thinking it's kind of embarrassing to myself because you've been client for a few months and you still don't know we still didn't teach you how to use those muscles. And at the same time, I would give you the same cues I give everybody else. And yes, some people get it, some don't. And I found there was age-related kind of association with this phenomenon. And after, actually, through Philip, he mentioned this experiment, which through his work, I thought, oh, this is what happened in our gym. And I asked him where he heard about the experiment. And so he gave me the name of the book. I read the book. And it's basically, I realized the issue, the people couldn't feel those lats, those muscles in the back in that case. It's not because necessarily the muscles were weak. It was primarily because there was no signal, or was maybe very weak signal coming from the brain to recruit those muscle fibers, to activate those motor units. So the book is called Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Deutsch. And in the first, it's a brain plasticity book. In the first chapter, he talks about this experiment was done in this field of brain plasticity on monkeys, where they asked monkey to move index finger to look at the brain, and they found a certain neurological brain map got activated. They asked monkey to move middle finger. Another neurological map got activated in the brain. They call those topographical brain maps. Why? Because if two body parts are near each other, those neurological maps will typically neighbor each other. So what they did in the experiment, they tied these two fingers for a few months, so monkey can only move this finger together for a few months. And then when they look at the brain again, what they found that those single maps were gone. Instead, monkey developed one large map. So even if you disconnect the finger, monkey was not able to move one finger separately, was able to move fingers together. That was a aha moment for me, because I realized that's what happens to our body. When you habitually sit certain way, you move certain way, you master certain movement day in, day out, your brain will rewire, will adjust to your lifestyle, to the patterns of your lifestyle. So if you haven't used the muscles of the back for years, instead you've been using muscles of the arms, that's what's gonna happen. I put you on the rowing exercise, you wouldn't be able to use the back because there's no signal from the back, or very weak one. You by default gonna use your arms. So that realization was for me, that's the foundation of this principle, muscle first, movement second, is that in the beginning, the first level of adaptation is always neurological. And sometimes, if you've been, particularly if you're younger and you've been using your body properly, it's not an issue. That neurological adaptation is going to be fast because you already have fairly strong neurological brain maps. Activate that muscle is no problem. In some cases, it's not as simple as it looks. It requires a bit more precision. And the key in strengthening those neurological maps, the first level of adaptation is to pay close attention. And this is where a mindful movement is the key, because when you move slower, you can feel the right muscles better. If you feel the right muscles better, you can pay close attention to those muscles. There's a part in the brain called nucleus basalis. It produces this so-called neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. So what happens when we have high level of acetylcholine, the brain is ready to create new synaptic connections, basically create new memory patterns. Children produce acetylcholine essentially 24/7. So their brain is soft and plastic, it adjusts, learns everything on the fly. They don't have to pay attention. As the brain matures, it's only by paying close attention, well, mainly, not only, but mainly by paying close attention, your brain's gonna start producing more acetylcholine, enter this kind of soft plastic state, and you're gonna speed up, creation of those synaptic connections in the brain. And only then, once you strengthen those connections, you can actually feel muscles better that you target and you're working, meaning you can produce more force output from those muscles and consequently build more strength in those muscles. So you have to feel the muscle that you're working. So when you're doing some exercises like a rowing exercise we talk in the book, or some others, make sure you feel those muscles, because if you don't feel those muscles, you're not working those muscles. So that's the principle, the foundation and the background of the principle. Why we need to prioritize the muscles that we're working before the actual movement? Because if you're not clear on it, and this is number one error. Before I was clear on this, when the principle of these principles we talk in the book, it took us years to understand by working with people as well. And a few years ago, when we look at what number one error we see with people, even though we guide them personally one-on-one, that was the error. With people would prioritize the movement more the engagement of the right muscle. They will sit in the machine and just focus. My goal is to move the handle from point A to point B. And some people use the right muscles, but many don't. Why? Because they prioritize the movement. So what we need to do, we need to make sure we prioritize the muscle and the right joint in right joints. So feel the area that you work in first, and let the movement be a byproduct of the exercise. So don't make the movement a priority. Movement is a byproduct. Make sure you can feel the right muscles. So very important principle. If you don't follow this principle, it's kind of what's the point, right? So moving on to the next principle. And the next one is about slow and mindful movement. In the past, I would again stay by like leg press machine, and what client would just do this and ask me how many more reps. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I kind of didn't do a good job explaining what this training is about. It's not about doing X number of predetermined repetitions. It's about the stimulus for adaptation. And I thought I should, right from the beginning, explain to clients when they sign up, when we introduce into this training, this why it's not about repetition. So for instance, when you look at a power lifter, they're trying to take the barbell and move it from the floor towards the ceiling. Their main objective is to demonstrate strength. And there's nothing wrong with it. If that's your goal, go practice that. Our objective with MSTF is to build strength. So it's a very different objective. So the question is, what's the most efficient, effective, safe way to do it? Well, it appears to be kind of what we do here. We move slowly. And, as Philip described, we will enlist slow twitch fibers, endurance fibers. And then once those are fatigued, the brain will start recruiting higher order fibers, intermediate twitch fibers. And then when you feel that kind of agitation in you, that's your body essentially starts producing more and more adrenaline. And the function of that adrenaline is to make you agitated so you can pay attention, because as far as your body is concerned, this is emergency. Then when you feel that agitation, you're going to start tapping into those fast twitch fibers, those powerhouse fibers that only last maybe a minute or so, but they need, not hours, but days to recover. And so that's your goal. Your goal with this training is not to count repetition. It's not to demonstrate, not to lift, 500 pounds. It's to move slowly, feel the right muscle. The more you feel the muscle, the faster you're going to create neurological adaptation. And then let the brain, let the body go sequentially go through all 3 different muscle fiber types, all the way to those fast twitch fibers. And as far as I understand, the only way you're gonna, when you tap into those fast twitch fibers, when you feel that agitation in you, basically when you feel that adrenaline, because that's the function of those fast twitch fibers. They're there for once in a while emergency situation. They're not there for everyday use. So that's, third principle is move slowly. Don't worry about how many reps you do. Feel the right muscle and get to the point when you feel that agitation and try to hang in there for as long as you can. And now we move to the last principle, which is we call, reaching muscle failure. There are various terms for it in scientific literature. Some of them is more common one is momentary muscular failure. As far as we're concerned, that's where the majority of positive adaptation happen, because when you produce adrenaline during your workout, you have very different set of adaptations than otherwise. So you would probably never get to that level of those adaptations unless you tap into that fight and flight system, that adrenaline producing system in your workout. And if you haven't read the book, you will kind of see more explanation why. And another reason going to failure is Germans, there's a principle, it's called overload theory. Germans talked about this principle over 100 years ago. And essentially the theory stated that if you want to get stronger, the training has to be progressive. You cannot do the same amount of work the muscle every time and expect it to get stronger. It won't. The training has to be progressive. You have to do a little bit more work in the muscles than before, a little bit more than before, a little bit more than before. So what happens when you train to muscle failure, let's say, we're not counting repetitions, but what we use stopwatch. And let's say it took you 2 minutes on the leg press before you reach failure today. Give legs, 3, 5, 7 days recovery. When you do it again, same setting, same weight, it probably will take you 2 minutes, 10, 15 seconds. It's going to take you a little bit longer before you reach failure. Why? Because you've adapted, you become stronger. So each time going to failure, you're going to take those muscles to its current capacity of today, not of 1 week ago. If you stop it at 2 minutes like last week, it's probably not strong enough of a stimulus because you already can do that. By challenging your muscle, taking them to the full capacity, existing capacity, you're able to overload those muscles to do a little bit more than last week. So that also, this training to failure simply takes care of that overload theory that is, century old. So in summary, if you want to find more joy and less suffering, learn about how to be present during the workout, and again, prioritizing the experience and rather than kind of willing the head. And this is where Philip is the master. If you guys need more help, check his website and learn what he does. prioritize the muscle over the movement. Make sure you feel the right muscle. Very, very important. Otherwise, if you're doing particularly those back exercises, you don't feel the muscle, what's going to happen year after year? Certain body parts going to get stronger, certain are going to remain weak. We don't know what kind of imbalance you're going to create and what kind of issues, might come up later on in life. So make sure you can, whatever the muscles, the exercise you do, which muscles you should feel, and you feel those muscles. Third one, move slowly and mindfully. Don't worry about repetitions. Last, if you're able, go to muscle failure. There are some cases, I had clients today, they came like older lady, she wanted to learn how to do it using the body weight, and given her medical condition, it simply was not safe to go to failure. So we didn't. We just focus on feeling the right muscle, moving slowly and mindfully, and do what she can, do what you can. So if you have pre-existing health conditions, it's so sad for you, don't worry about going to failure. If you're reasonably healthy, we invite you to go into that deep forest and see where it's gonna take you, because it's such an honest workout. It's not fake, it's a real workout. And I should also mention that we've professionally recorded videos for this work. For all the exercises mentioned in the book, they can be found on newelementtraining.com, my company website. There's like a little fee, you can cancel it anytime, or book a virtual session with us. And like I probably be the one, at least in the beginning, introducing you to this, because it's fairly straightforward, but there are nuances and subtleties. I would encourage you and highly recommend, if you get serious about it, to take your time to learn how to do this right. And if you do that, it will take care of your body in more ways than you realize. I hear every day almost people telling me, oh, I feel here, and our demographics is 40 plus. Look at Philip. He came across New Element Training, 4 years ago or something, right? You should see his body, like 11% body fat. He's super fit. I have, more and more clients in their mid 60s that they feel fitter than they were in their 30s, right? It really works. And it's not a big time commitment. It's a very sustainable way to do it. Just take your time, take this seriously, and you will be very, very happy with your progress. So that's what I have to say.
Thanks, Andrei. And just so people know, the website for New Element Training, I pasted into the comments, so you can copy that and check it out. Every exercise in the book has been videotaped with Andrei coaching someone through the exercise, and I think it's $8 American for a month, and you have access to it, and you can watch how each exercise, both the machine exercises and the body weight exercises, are done. For me, the bottom line is anyone can get stronger at any point. And by getting stronger, you are giving your health what it needs to flourish. So we promised we'd field questions, which is actually my favorite part of this. What I'd suggest is at the bottom of your screen, if you take your cursor there should be a little reactions button. And under the reactions button, one of the things you can do is raise your hand. That might be the easiest way to let us know you have a question. Alternatively, do feel free to type into the chat, I have a question, or even type your question if you wish. Michael, are you able to unmute? Let me just, there, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Still not. Well,
yeah, now I am. Now I'm here. Okay. Hi, Philip. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Just two quick questions. I hope they'll be quick. The first one is the mindfulness and the presence in the body part. I find I've only just started, so I've only just done 3 sessions, just to let you know where I am. I find it's very difficult to do that and at the same time time do progressive increase and measure myself, because measurement really takes me straight to the head and straight to willpower. So what I find is that at times I force my body because I want to get beyond what I did the previous session, and I feel that's not really the point. So I wonder how I can get these contradictions to work together. Second thing I find, and as I said, I'm just a beginner, it's really important to go into this, or at least for me it is, convincing myself that I just don't know anything about these exercises, because they seem just exercises which everybody knows. And like the push-ups, I used to do 50, 60, no problem. And now I could do 6, 7, and I get, oh shit, what's going on? And I still, this third part of the question, and then I finished, I'm still not sure when I actually, and if I actually get to failure. Thank
Good.
you.
I'll take all three parts. So on the mindfulness thing, just to reframe it in a way that I'm hoping is helpful, I never have a sense that I am forcing my body, but it's not a big difference. The sense I have is that I am releasing my body. I am letting its energy move through me, and I'm experiencing that quality of the energy moving through me. And I'm just, to the best of my ability, opening and opening and opening to that energy. And it plays out in different ways on different days. Sometimes I have a sense of sort of all the frustrations of the week being gathered and channeled and released, and it's such a glorious catharsis in a way. And what is the edge of my failure in that? That's what there's a very deep encounter with that edge, with that cusp. And so my focus is on releasing myself until there is nothing left to release. And I mean, it may sound contradictory, but there is a gentleness that is possible with that. When I'm in the leg press, and I am, my muscles are screaming, there is still this gentleness that allows me to do one more and allows me to do one more. And I know it sounds highly paradoxical, but I'd invite you to find that, because that gentleness is born of the body, and of the body's resources and intelligence. In terms of like the push-ups, and what does it mean to get to failure? 6 push-ups slow is brilliant. And without the momentum, the muscles are working at every moment. Excuse me. When I do my workout currently, I'm doing 30 I'm actually starting on the negative. I'm doing 30 seconds lowering, 30 seconds lifting, 30 seconds lowering, and it's a brilliant terrain for exploration. So you can do one push up and get to failure, if you're going slowly enough. I've seen Andrei do a single chin up in 2 minutes. It was the most phenomenal thing to watch him lower himself over 1 minute and then lift himself over the next minute. Knowing you get to failure, just hold it. Just hold it. Wherever you are, hold it. And despite your best effort to hold it, you will lower, for example, in the push-up, you will lower to the ground. And then you're there. And then you don't even need to do another set. You're complete for that. Does that
Can
sort of
I
answer your...
add a couple more things from Michael?
Please, yeah.
Michael, as well, to add to what Philip just mentioned, in terms of measurements, I would recommend, you can use a stopwatch or on your phone or just get a stopwatch, but don't look at it during the exercise. It's not your objective to beat your previous time. It's your objective is to experience everything and to go to failure. And then once you finish, then look at it. And you might discover that if your stimulus was proper and you had enough recovery between the sessions, you might find that your time will grow. But don't try to chase to beat the previous time. So don't look at the clock during the workout. And another way, when you at the failure, well, failure is basically defined that where you're trying to perform one more repetition in a good form, you're unable to move the resistance, right? So that's simple definition. But you're there once you start feeling that agitation, that adrenaline, and you go and you feel like really, really agitated, and you cannot move the resistance at the same time, you failed. So that's how you know.
Thank you. That really answers it. Thank you very much. Especially the part about not looking at the clock. That probably gets you out of the head. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Oscar.
Yeah, hi Philip. I have started doing some of the exercises at home, and I still have a hard time actually dealing with that pain, or what you call it, discomfort, but it's really pain that just shows up before a few movements before the failure occurs. And I need some more guidance, how to deal with that, because otherwise I just have to give it up. It's too much discomfort.
I mean, I'll tell you how I experience it in the hope that might help in some way. I feel that pain as light almost. My body is being illuminated. I feel that pain as my life. My life is being summoned, and I am so alive in that moment, which is different from the mindset that says I'm hurting so much at the moment. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that enjoys, I suppose, the challenge of refusing to fail. I'm not done yet. I can go deeper. There is a deeper resource I can access. And when I'm deep in my body, in effect, there is a stillness that I come back to deep in the pelvic bowl. And that stillness, in a way, is like my refuge. It allows me to feel everything and be at rest with it all. Now, I don't know if any of that's helpful to you, but it's worth playing with.
Well, I will take Lynn, and you can take Kathleen, okay?
Yeah, well, I will certainly listen to this again in the recording, and think about it. And there are certainly bits and pieces that help with this situation. Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I could say something more magical, but the reality is that extremity is there, and we are so unused to coming that fully to life in our culture, and so I see it as an opportunity to feel myself summoned into life. And I love it. I would no more miss my workout at the gym. I would do anything I could to make it there. My body yearns to to explore that terrain, to be pulled, to be summoned in that way to life. And I'm more alive during that workout than probably at any other time during my week.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish you every success with it, Oscar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jane.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I have also two bits of questions. I've just begun also. I've read the book and I've done perhaps 4 sessions, not complete yet, but I'm building up. I'm 63 and a yoga teacher, and I've always done Ashtanga, so not a very mild form of yoga, but rather a more aggressive one. But because it's one can't do certain parts if you're not strong enough, I found that I'm actually flexible but getting weaker. So this is why I'm really interested in getting stronger. But what I want to know is there any way of knowing what delay at my age one should leave between, whether it's 2 days or 3 days or 4 days between the workouts? Is there a way to feel it in the body? And the other question is, I want to continue nevertheless with my Ashtanga, and that is largely stretching the way I do it anyway. So is there again a time that's ideal to stretch the muscle that doesn't detract from the strength gaining that one hopes to achieve? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Andrei, I'll take a little crack at it, and then you.
No, you want? I can take it if you want.
Yeah, go.
Hi, Jane, right? Sorry.
Yes.
So in terms of the frequency, it's really about this balance between intensity and frequency. The lesser the intensity, the more frequent we can do it. The higher the intensity, the less frequent you should do it. In this training, you're activating that ancient fight and flight system. It's not there to be activated too often. It's there for emergencies, right? When you get that adrenaline spike, that fight and flight, those fast twitch fibers. And as we get older, the body takes a little bit longer to recover. So we don't know for sure. I would, because we work with people over past 8 years, I would arrow on more recovery than less recovery. So I would doing, let's say, full body workout. Give yourself minimum 3 days before you do another workout, maybe even 4 or 5 days. But be yourself scientist. Use the stopwatch, record your progress, like record everything, and take 2 days off, do the workout. Are you progressing? Yes, good. What you might find as you get stronger, you're gonna do more and more intensity. You might not recover after 2 days. You might need to add another day to recover, then do 3 days. It's a really dynamic process. It's not fixed. You have to kind of feel your body and see what works for you. In the end of the day, if this is your baseline, and after the training, you feel exhausted, right? You're below the baseline, physiologically. And then if you do it too often, you're gonna end up always below the baseline. So you're kind of gonna feel crappy and tired all the time. So that's too frequent, too often. The idea is the workout is just a stimulus. So get below the baseline, give your body time to recover, give your body time to adapt and compensate, and feel a little bit above the baseline. So when you're doing the following workout, you're actually looking forward towards it. So go by the feeling, make sure you look forward to it. If you're not looking forward to it because the body too tired, add another recovery day. And I think what's another question?
Yes, about the difference between stretching and creating strength. I always think they're two sides of the coin, and that as you stretch, you're actually detracting from your strength. That may not be right, but there's some sort of relation like that between them.
When you look at scientific data, basically you probably don't want to stretch before this kind of workout. After workout is fine, but don't do it before, and everything else is fine.
Okay, thank you.
That's if Philip has anything else to add.
No, you summed it up nicely, Andrei. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're most welcome, Jane.
Thank you.
David.
Oh, thanks, Phil. Just to comment about Andrei's idea about the time in the gym. You know, when I was in the gym, most people would stay there about an hour and a half. And I was at a gym in Calgary one time, and the US bobsled team came in. And they went right to their machines, and they ran around the gym in 20 minutes. It was phenomenal. I couldn't believe it, but you know, and that's a pretty heavy duty weights on them. But my question and comment is around the prioritizing muscle over movement, and I'm wondering if it is an either or choice. I was training as a competitive triathlete for an Ironman competition, and my coach really emphasized technique. And so I'm wondering, can technique be a combination of muscle awareness and coordination of movement harmonized with the technical aspects of exercise, like positioning, balance, breathing, and hand grip? I'm wondering if, yeah, I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
Philip, you want me to take it, or you want?
Well, I mean, I can start. For me, there are three separate issues. One is the actual technique of a sport, of the way the hand enters the water when you're swimming, the way the body rolls on the reach. So that technique is one thing, and there certainly is technique in using the machines, for example, that you don't want your grip to be too strong, because I mean, unless it's you're rowing, but even then, our tendency to tighten the whole body is counterproductive to the mindful approach to working out. So there's the movement, there's the technique, and there's the muscle. There's a difference for me between the technique and the muscle. When I'm, for example, when I'm pulling down the chin-up bar, I am feeling all the strength of my body in my back. I'm not thinking of my arms, and it's as though my back is pulling the bar down rather than my arms. So that's what it is to give priority to the muscles that are sometimes neglected. I mean, before I met Andrei, I was doing that with my arms. And now my back is alive, and it's just such a wonderful feeling. So even now, you know, after 4 years of going in, I'm still consciously giving priority to the muscle rather than to the movement. I'd also like to say, like in terms of the bobsled team, I travel the world teaching workshops, and everywhere I go, I try to get into a gym. And apart from Germany and the Kieser training gyms, I have never once seen anyone doing the slow workout. They're all pumping away and then taking rest and then doing the second set. And it's astonishing to me that, you know, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Europe, in North America, I've never once encountered one person doing this workout. I think the time has really come. I love your story of the bobsled team.
Yeah.
Does
I'm wondering if they would do an experiment, if they go into the gym and try to do a slow movement with those same heavy duty weights,
Yeah,
and see what the difference would be. You know, that would be interesting.
absolutely.
I can tell you, I had so many people over the years. It doesn't matter how fit they are, what the background, could be professional athletes. Everybody gets humbled by this workout. Everyone, no exception. Doesn't matter how super athletic you are.
Yeah.
But
Right.
not to scare, you know, people who, you know, don't want to do that. It's the point here. You're gonna take your system, your muscles, to your current capacity, to the limit of your capacity. You know, capacity of bobsled athlete is different from, you know, 8-year-old woman from osteoporosis, but both will take their muscles to their capacities, and it feels challenging. Doesn't matter how athletic you are.
And by doing so, your muscles get stronger.
And
I mean,
another thing I would recommend, always start with lighter resistance, get the form and technique down first. That's what we do. When people come for the first several sessions, we go lighter, right? To develop the proper pattern. So make sure you learn what it means to use those muscles, the form and technique. Don't worry about the failure too much. Don't worry about, failing after 90 seconds or 2 minutes. Learn how to use the right muscles, develop good technique, and only then start prioritizing the other areas. You have to do that part first. Otherwise, you won't, more likely than not, you won't be doing it well, using the right muscles and so on.
I'd just like to add about doing the right muscles is, over the years, I've had these chronic aches and pains that you just live with. I mean, the hip hurts or whatever it is, the shoulder hurts, and they've disappeared. And I understand that as a consequence of my muscles coming into balance. So my joints are supported as they need to be. And so if you prioritize the movement, you'll be leaning on old habits that can leave neglected muscles unused. So by bringing your awareness to the muscle, feeling it engage and allowing it to do the work the exercise is designed to target, you're bringing your muscles into balance in a wonderful way.
Before the next question, I should say I should leave in about 5 minutes because I have clients. So if anybody has questions for me, just I have.
Yeah, does anyone between Connie, Shayla, and John have a question specifically for Andrei? Well, let's go with Shayla.
Yeah, I just really want to express my gratitude to you, Andrei and Philip. Like, this is a very profound offering here. And I can feel the principles, like the humility. And for me, they're about more than just exercise. They're connected with life itself. And I actually have a dear friend on this call. We were in a racism training in the US over the last year that was so intense and so uncomfortable, and every part of me wanted to either fight or run away, and I had to learn to stay. And when you said, Philip, like when you're at that edge and there's a deep gentleness from the body itself that lets you stay when everything in you wants to run screaming, that's an incredible resource to be able to tap into.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shayla. And I, every time I do a workout, I visit that resource and deepen it. It's really extraordinary. Yeah. Thank you. Connie.
I have trouble getting started. So it's like it's like mind over body. My mind has to just like convince my body that this is a good idea. Really pretty much about any kind of exercise, but especially this exercise. So I just wonder if you have anything to say about that. And then I have one other question after that.
Well, I have something to say, which is, and we talk about this in the book, if you can find a partner, someone even on Zoom, to do it with you, then, oh my gosh, it's almost 2:00. We're meeting at 2. And it just makes all the difference. It makes all, when Andrei first worked out trying Body by Science, he had a group of friends and they'd meet once a week and do the practice together. And when I do my workout, I go with my wife, Allison, and we do it together. It makes such a difference to have that commitment made with another person. And then you've got no choice. They're waiting for you.
This is exactly what I just finished reading a great book called Exercised, which is about the evolution of exercise. It's written by a Harvard evolutionary biologist and anthropologist. He's a professor of those things. fascinating. It says basically that we evolved to conserve energy. And so even though people know exercise is good for them, a lot of people resist it. But and he says the social aspect of it is a really good way to motivate yourself. So my other question is about stretching. And so my muscles have they're tight. They've just always been tight my whole life. And so I've done things like restorative yoga where you hold a pose for 10 minutes. But, then I'll go to a physical therapist and she'll say that I don't think that's a good idea. You shouldn't have I'm just a little confused about stretching and what kind of stretching to do. And thank you, Andrei, for saying do the stretching after. That was useful.
So again, I can speak from my personal experience.
Maybe before I start explaining, I just want to say bye to everyone. And if you have any questions, you can contact me personally through our website, newelementtraining.com. There are a couple forms. You can find their email as well. And don't hesitate to ask any questions, and I'll give you as much support as I can. And good luck, everybody. Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, Andrei.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you.
Where was I? I forget.
Stretching. You were going to tell me about your experience.
Yeah. So a guy called Bob Cooley developed resistance stretching. I visited his place in Santa Barbara. It's an entirely different way of stretching. What it refers to is the muscle you're stretching is actually engaged as you're stretching it. And it's made the most significant difference to me of anything I've tried, and it feels wonderful. He's got a website with a bunch of stretches that are demonstrated on video. He's got a book, which is less helpful, I found, than the website, but also worth looking at. It's entirely contrary to what I was taught, which is to relax the muscle you're stretching. This is actually, you engage the hamstring as you're stretching it, and it's safe and just so effective. It's, for me anyway, it was a huge discovery.
Great, thanks. I'll check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you repeat the name, please, Philip?
Yeah, you know what I'll do is I'll type it into the guy's name is Bob Cooley. And the modality is called resistance stretching. And again, he's got I forget what the website is called, but you should be able to find it through Bob Cooley. Yeah. John.
Yeah, thank you very much. And this is fantastic. And I just got the book and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, marvelous.
I just had a question. If you have had any experience with people with a history of heart disease, I have had a heart attack. I'm doing great. But, I just want, and I feel my doctor says I don't have restrictions. And so I feel like I'm going to be able to approach this, but I just wondered if you had any, for those of us with health histories and health limitations, if you could share any guidance for us as we embark on this path.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one, it might be worth sending a message to Andrei about that.
Yeah, I was thinking I maybe should have.
What I know is that for the heart to work and rest is more effective than sustained moderate activity. So even in high intensity interval training, they found that, you know, yes, you can go and walk for 40 minutes, but that's harder on the heart than walking quickly and resting, and walking quickly and resting. So, you know, the workout, the MSTF workout, it's just 1.5 minutes under load, and then you rest. So from what I know, that is helping the heart rather than stressing it. But
Very good.
yeah, Andrei would likely have a deeper well of experience from which to
Sure.
draw on that.
Well, I will definitely contact them because I am excited.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And Jennifer. I don't know if Jennifer's still there. We'll wait. We'll see if Jennifer comes back. Marion.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit, if that was okay, because
I'd appreciate it.
although I'm not practicing now, I used to be a qualified personal trainer. So I used to do a lot of this with clients, and I've actually been working like this. I've lost you. I can't see you.
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah, I've got Raluca on my screen. And I've actually been doing this exercise for about 5, 6, 7 years. So I totally endorse everything you've been talking about. I go to the gym for 20 minutes. That's it.
Yeah.
And I go twice a week, and I'm doing leg presses. I mean, I do I do pretty heavy leg presses. So anyway, I have bought your book, but I haven't started it yet. But I was just really interested because I've been doing this. And the bits I just wanted to add were that actually it makes a big difference if before doing the exercise, you actually visualize it. Because then you're telling your brain what you're going to work. And for instance, when you're working the lats, it's very hard, as you know. It's like you think you're doing your arms, but you're not. You're working the latissimus dorsi. And so if you show somebody a picture of that and visualize, those are the muscles that you're going to work by doing this. The visualization, if you close your eyes and just visualize it and then do it, what you find is, I'm also a kinesiologist as well, so I know this from a different way as well. You actually will do the exercise more easily.
Yeah,
through visualizing it,
absolutely.
So I just wanted to add to that, to your mindfulness and the muscle first and everything. It makes a huge difference. It makes a big difference. I've got to just over 100 kilos now on leg pressing, which is quite a lot. And I've done it through a lot of visualization.
Yeah.
And since I've been working with you, I've also done it from the pelvic bowl as well. So I add energy to it.
Yes.
I can't really explain this, but I add energy. So I go into my pelvic bowl, and I can't really describe it other than I just send energy from my pelvic bowl into my legs.
I actually write about that in chapter 6 of the book.
Okay, so I haven't read it yet. I just want, okay.
I'd so look forward to you reading it.
So I just wanted to add really the visualization. And I also thought, in terms of Oscar, who talked about pain, I don't even know if he's here. My suggestion would be, don't start off going for muscle failure, because personally, this is me, and Andrei might differ, but you have to build up some kind of strength first before your body's going to tolerate the pain. So you can do like the heaviest weight, build up something before you go to muscle failure. And
Yeah.
then, Oscar, I think you might actually get it. You might enjoy it. I wouldn't go to that pain first off, because your body's not used to it. I've been exercising since I started exercising before gyms were even invented. So I've been exercising years and years, and this is what I do now.
Yeah.
And I just know that, when you start later in life, you can't just, anyway, I think you have to build up the muscle before you go to muscle failure. Andre might have a different view, but I also treat muscle injuries as well. So anyway, I just wanted to add that little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Marion. And I agree with you. And when you do muscle first and movement second, you if you're abiding with that, if you're staying with the muscle, then it's like the muscle will tell you when to stop. That the extremity of going to failure, it is something to work up to. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
all I
you.
wanted to say.
Thank you so much. And I totally agree with the visualization. The mind body connection is there is a unity there. It's not even they are connected. They are one. Jennifer, I have no way to unmute you, and I can ask you to unmute, but I just can't. I can't unmute you. You should be able to unmute yourself. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's not working. If you can find a way to unmute yourself, we would welcome that. If you can't, do feel free to type a question into the chat room. And in the meantime, Anne, I'd be delighted to hear your question or comment.
Thanks, Philip. Well, I put a question in the chat, but a lot of it has been clarified for me during this presentation.
Good. Can I do the exercises at home?
Yeah, in as much as that, thank you, because I haven't looked at the book, and I would, I want to get into this. And so I gather really from I have got some much more of an understanding of the principles. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, so let me show you in the
we'll
book.
Be looking maybe for some things that I can start at home because I'm 71 and I've got a cancer at the moment which is being treated. So I need to be careful with my body,
Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, I would love to build strength and my immune system as well.
Yeah, so in the book, there's a red section that is basically machine exercises.
Okay.
And just past that, there's a yellow section that is exercises you can do at home just with your body.
Oh, brilliant.
Weight. Yeah, so there are actually more exercises for the body weight and a resistance band than there are machine exercises in the book.
Okay. Yeah. So it is possible to start at home. And,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. And thank you all so much I've learned from other people so much.
Yeah.
As well as Andrei and yourself, Philip, as always.
Yeah. Lovely to see you, Anne. And I'm gathering we're out of questions. I don't see any any hands raised that haven't been addressed. You can do it. You can get stronger, and you can. I mean, I'm 68 and I'm still getting stronger, and it feels wonderful. And there's an ease and a vitality in my body that wasn't there before. And it's so simple, with half an hour once or twice a week. you can get stronger and stronger. And as you get stronger, you're supporting the whole of your metabolism in ways they're still discovering. I mean, they've identified over 600 different kinds of myokines, and they still don't know what they all do. So it's something so simple, so positive that you can do for yourself, and the results are guaranteed in that you will get stronger. So I will bring this to a close.
Philip, I think Jennifer just unmuted herself.
Oh, yay. Jennifer, are you there?
Yeah, I made it.
Oh, yes, Jennifer, yay.
Hello. Hi.
Well done.
I don't know what happened. Anyway, I just wanted to come back on some of the things that a couple of the ladies said about stretching. So I'm a yoga teacher, and I started doing fitness and strength building very slowly about 1.5 years ago. And it's kind of been a revolution for me. And I'm pretty much self-taught because the gyms kept closing. And also I was in classes where there was a lot of people. So I wasn't getting any attention, which was fine because I was experimenting myself. But I just wanted to say to the ladies who were asking about stretching, what I found with the yoga was that it wasn't helping me anymore. I'd gotten to a stage in my life where I needed to build contraction and power and resistance and kind of bring an energy up into my body. And the stretching was just hurting me, actually, because I think I was moving from a place of non-strength and non-contraction, which made me think it was interesting you mentioning that man, Bob Cooley. But when I started doing the strength training, I actually found that the stretches happened on their own, actually. It's sort of weird. I didn't have to push it at all. I would just invite the body to go into a longer shape, and it just did it on its own. And my ability to actually be more flexible or mobile happened on its own as a result of the growth of contraction and the very gradual, I have to say, growth of strength, because I also had a lot of pain, so I had to move slowly. And then I was moving too slowly, though, actually. And then I got very enthusiastic, and I entered this challenge in the gym, and went every day, which I know isn't the point it is. I went every day. I got really keen, and I thought, I'm going to try and really do this as an experiment and see what happens. And there's no looking back now. So I just wanted to sort of share that with people, that I also came from a place of yoga and of weakness and of a lot of pain and a lot of headaches, also to do with neck stuff. And yeah, I would suggest that everybody try for a while, and even if you're starting really slow, and if you can get help, do. If you can't, try at home. And yeah, that's it, really. I just sometimes think when other people say something, it can be helpful for somebody else to hear it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. Really, really appreciate that. And we're so used to making the body do what we know it should do for its own good. And this is really an invitation to let the body live through this mindful, present experience of coming into its own. And the body yearns to move. It loves to engage with the world and feel itself in a different way through that. So if you can connect with that and trust it, it will serve you well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. And
Thank
it
you.
might take a little while to get to that place. I thought it was boring at the beginning, and then something happened, and I started, as you say, to engage with something. I didn't even know what it was, but it was like engaging with very much with the physical bodily self, and then it went deeper than that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know it's probably time for you to finish up, so I'll stop now. But I look forward to reading your book. I don't have it yet, but I'll get it.
I so look forward to
Thanks
you
very
reading
much.
it as well, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. We did record it, so we can we'll post that and send out a link. So if there's anything you wish to re-listen to, you can do that. May 2022 bring us wonders that we all hunger for, including some free social interaction. We are social beings, and it's been very strange to be deprived of that. And I wish you a healthy and prosperous and happy 2022, and hope to see you again. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Philip.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Have a
Bye,
good new
everybody.
year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Best wishes to all.
Bye. Thank you.
Take good care. Bye-bye.